What makes the Quran so unique in the way in which it communicates? The way in which Allah says stuff is so powerful and so incredible. You see, the Quran, when it's translated, maybe you'll get the content of what He says. Maybe. What will you definitely not get 100%? How He said it. That's lost. What He said, maybe you get something out of translation. Maybe. But how He said it is gone. That's it. Because how He said it exists in what language? In Arabic. Even if you explain it to somebody in Arabic, in your own Arabic, it's still not how He said it. You understand? So the creative beauty, the unique beauty, the unparalleled majesty really of Allah's words, they cannot be translated. Something from the meaning can be translated. But the actual impact that the original words have, nothing else can have. In appreciating this gap between our attempts to translate the Quran and Allah's own words, to appreciate this gap, you know what As-Suyuti rahimahullah said? He said, if you can appreciate the distance between Allah and His creation, meaning how far above Allah is from His creation, then you have some idea of the distance between the word of Allah and the word of the creation. What is translation? It is the word of creation. It can never be a substitute for the word of Allah. It can't be. This is not a lecture on what is lost in the content. We could talk about that too. There's a lot lost in the content too. But I want to talk to you about what is lost in the beauty, in the style. And how can we as non-Arab speaking audiences, as people that aren't exposed to the Arabic language, at least even begin that journey of appreciating the Quran in that light. That is something that has been held dearly by Muslims for a very, very, very long time and is almost entirely lost upon the Muslims in our
Alright, welcome. Peace be upon all the Muslims that follow the Quran alone. Now, whether you're listening to this on YouTube or on Facebook, one thing you have to understand is that chapter 14 verse 4, where it clearly states, and we have not sent any messenger except in the language of his people, so he may clarify for them, but God misguides whom He wills, and He guides whom He wills. Simple as that. So if you're English, then that message will come in English, and so on and so forth. So what you've got to understand is that these little charlatans that are out there, these little shaitans, these little satanic minions, they go out there, and they preach their falsehood with elegant speech, etc. Now you might think, who's this white twat? Who's this English twat? What does he know? He's a revert, etc., etc. Now, I don't care what you think. As I said, I'm not here to please you. I'm only here to please the Almighty Lord. And I'm not here to tart anything up in order to make it to your liking. You either like it or you don't. You either hate me or love me. Whatever. It's no bother. As I said, I'm only doing this for God. And let's crack on with trying to answer or expose him being an idiot, basically. So he says that, obviously you heard what he says, but you say translation can never be the substitution for the words of God. So what about chapter 14 verse 4? And we have not sent any messenger except in the language of his people, so he may clarify for them. But God misguides whom He wills, and He guides whom He wills, and He is the noble, the wise. Simple as that. If you're English, then the message will come in English, and so on and so forth. So, chapter 26, verse 195 to 199, in a clear Arabic tongue. And had we revealed it to some of those who did not know Arabic, and He read it to them, they would not have believed in it. Chapter 41, verse 44, and had we made it a Quran that was not non-Arabic, they would have said, if only its verses were made clear, not non-Arabic or Arabic, save for those who believe it is a guide and a healing. As for those who disbelieve, there is a deafness in their ears, and they are blind to it. These will be called from a place far away. Chapter 16, verse 103, and we are aware that they say a mortal is teaching him the tongue of the one they refer to is non-Arabic, while this is a clear Arabic tongue. God said that it is a clear book. Chapter 2 verse 99, we have sent down to you clear revelations, only the wicked would disbelieve in them. You can also check chapter 2 verse 185, chapter 2 verse 209 and chapter 2 verse 213, and these are just a few. God also said, easy to understand, chapter 54 verse 17, and we have made the Quran easy to remember. Are there any who want to learn? And you can check these few verses as well, chapter 54 verse 40, chapter 54 verse 22, chapter 54 verse 32, and there's many more. God also said he's the teacher of the Quran, chapter 96 verse 1, read in the name of your Lord who has created. Chapter 96 verse 3, read and your Lord is the generous one, the one who taught by the pen. He taught to the human being what he did not know. Chapter 55 verse 2, he has taught the Quran. He has created man, he taught him how to distinguish. Chapter 2 verse 37, God taught Adam his words. Chapter 2 verse 124, Abraham was tested with God's words. Chapter 66 verse 12, Mary upheld God's words and his scripture. Chapter 7 verse 158, Muhammad believed in God and his words. Chapter 6 verse 115 and chapter 18 verse 27, no man can change God's words. Chapter 42 verse 24, God is able to erase any falsehood and re-establish the truth with his words. Chapter 29 verse 51, the Quran is a sign from God. Chapter 9 verse 97, the Arabs are staunchest in disbelief and hypocrisy, and most likely not to know the limits of what was revealed by God to his messenger, and God is knower and judge. The messenger also didn't know its full meanings. In chapter 20 verse 114, then high above all is God, the King, the true, and do not be hasty with the Quran before its inspiration is completed to you, and say, my Lord, increase my knowledge. Chapter 69 verse 40 to 47, this is the utterance of an honourable messenger. It is not the utterance of a poet, rarely do you believe, nor the utterance of a soothsayer, rarely do you take heed, and revelation from the Lord of the worlds. And had he attributed anything forcefully to us, we would have seized him by the right, then we would have severed his lifeline. None of you would be able to prevent it, and this is a reminder for the righteous. Now also God says the Quran explains itself, Tashrif and Tafsir. Chapter 18 verse 54, and we have dispatched in this Quran for the people from every example, but the human being has always been most argumentative. Chapter 25 verse 33, and for every example they come to you with, we bring you the truth and the best explanation, and there's many more verses. Now Muhammad was not guided till God guided him. Chapter 42 verse 52, and thus we inspired to you a revelation of our command. You did not know what was the book, nor what was faith, yet we made it a light to guide whoever we wish from among our servants. Surely you guide to a straight path. Chapter 93 verse 7, and he found you lost and guided you. Chapter 10 verse 35, say, are there any of those whom you set up as partners who can guide to the truth? Say, God guides to the truth. Is he who guides to the truth more worthy of being followed, or he who does not guide except after he is guided? What is wrong with you? How do you judge? Chapter 2 verse 272, you are not responsible for their guidance, but it is God who will guide whoever he wishes, and whatever you spend out of goodness is for your own souls, and anything you spend should be in seeking the face of God, and don't obviously take that as, the literal face of God, and whatever you spend out of goodness will be returned to you, and you will not be wronged. Also, if Muhammad did not know its full meanings, according to chapter 20 verse 114 and chapter 69 verse 40 to 47, then how was he supposed to explain it to the people? So reciting it makes perfect sense. It's God that guides, and the Quran explains itself, chapter 18 verse 54, chapter 25 verse 33, and in any language, chapter 14 verse 4. And we have not sent any messenger except in the language of his people, so he may clarify for them. But God misguides whom he wills, and he guides whom he wills, and he is the noble, the wise. Another way of saying this verse is, believers' language does not matter, I will give understanding. So collectively, humans, in spite of their religious beliefs, are unceasingly and increasingly violent with their own kind. They did very little in addressing oppression, gender discrimination, child abuse, denying civil rights, exploitation and injustice, etc., etc. In their surroundings, ignoring these sufferings, inasmuch a form of violence as inducing it. We need to pay attention to the fact that our aspiration for an ordinary way of life is dying. We need to notice what the world has gone through and what it has tried to give us, and we need to wake up to see what we, our parents and our neighbours are doing collectively and individually. Approximately 1.5 billion people have shackled their mind to a bigoted idea that God needs their worship, animal sacrifice, ritual prayer, fasting and homage to a rock hunk that symbolises God's glory. Organised religion creates a system of one direction of power to control you. No, Pharaoh enslaved people with religion, and today kings and queens and presidents and prime ministers and their officials, knowingly or unknowingly, are slaves of Pharaoh in different garbs of rabbis, priests, monks and mullahs. Thus Pharaoh is here to reign unless we start to think. After Abraham, a man called Moses committed himself to the 10 Commandments, a providence that could lead to an ordinary way of life, assuring peacefulness. Without his knowledge, his enemies wrote the Talmud. The Jews see as God's revelation. It became the tenets of Judaism, a religion unknown to him. Jesus went to the same community, calling them to restore the original law, and for that the Talmudic rabbis decreed that he was guilty of blasphemy and ordered him to be crucified. Like Moses and Jesus never knew there would be a religion called Christianity. Out of mercy, the Creator sanctioned the same providence to an Arab, confirming previous scriptures, but his own people created a new religion and packed it with Arab myth and tribal cults and obviously Moses and Jesus and Muhammad had no idea about any religion called Islam. I call it Hislam. Yeah, Hislam. Anyway, moreover, the same discrepancies, contradictory statements and illogical interpretations of passages of the Quran have found their way into all the translations of the Quran. Translators are basically men of letters. More often than not, they mistranslate or ignore the elementary purpose of the message when translating the Quran, perhaps due to their personal religious convictions prescribed for them by the aforementioned religious elite. The message is lost, resulting in a misconstrued, illogical and contradictory text. We should come as critical explorers to discover its meaning, not as religious zealots to shore up our tribal and historical inclinations. They were more concerned with reading the text in terms that supported their own preference for an idolatrous Arab religion. So, translators as a rule do not intend to specific subjects or compare verses with other related verses in the Quran and process that would have provided the key to understanding the words and expressions in the Quran. As a result, they mistranslate both whole passages and the key concepts behind individual words. This results in translations riddled with ambiguity, inaccuracy and inconsistency, which are spoiled on occasion with complete nonsensical statements. It is common knowledge that non-Arab Muslims around the globe daily recite 5 ritual prayers in Arabic. It is one of the requirements of their Arab religion, a requirement that is not to be found in the Quran. And other non-Arab speaking communities, whether it's English, French, German, Russian, Chinese, whatever, are told that they must ritually pray to an Arab god, specifically in the Arabic language. This presupposes that God cannot understand any other language, which by itself defies logic. The religionists deliberately erected a language barrier to exert their influence over their religion, and by extension over the people who practice the Arab religion. As a result, they created the Arab and Muslim culture as we know it today. They prevent the faithful from serving the Lord of the universe by systematically isolating them from understanding the Quran. Eventually, all translations of the Quran have to undergo their censorship before they can be circulated as legitimate translations. Chapter 6, verse 116. If you follow the majority of the people on earth, they will divert you from the path of God. They only follow conjecture, which is assumptions, and they only guess. He has prescribed for you the same way of life enjoined upon Noah, and what is revealed herein, and what was decreed for Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, etc., etc. You shall uphold the one way of life, and not be divided. It is simply too difficult for the idol worshippers to accept. What you advocate, God is the one who brings towards him whoever he wills. He guides towards himself those who return. Chapter 42, verse 13. So in the first simple statement, God warns us not to follow the majority, and that was really an eye-opener to anyone. The second verse obviously says, there is one God, and he is common to all mankind. and that all people need to be united in serving the one unseen God who revealed the scripture to the prophets and messengers. He is the only one who can bring us and guide us towards himself. The bearers of the message cannot do so. Simply put, the message is more important than the messengers. There is no need for any prophets or messengers. Once they have delivered the message, their duty is not to guide, but to call the people to God. Chapter 42 verse 13 also tells us in no uncertain terms that those who idolize humans or icons are considered idol worshippers, and that they will not respond to such a call. How is it then that there are so many religions, each claiming to profess and practice the right way to God? The Quran gives the answer to this predicament. In chapter 30 verse 31 to 32, you shall all submit to God, observe him and uphold your commitments, and never fall into idol worship, and do not be among those who change the way of life into religion. Each sectarian is happy with what they have. Chapter 36 verse 21, follow those who do not ask from you any wage, and they are guided. Any wage, as I explained before in the Sam Gerin's response. Yeah, go and check that video out. So, religion is a false creation of men. Religion's devotees are happy with what they practice. There are so many religions today, but only one creator. The fact is, these religious institutions survive through various forms of income. The Quran is against such a system. Last but not least, God's deen is not a religion. A religion is what is left over once men have taken full institutional control of God's revelations. God has revealed a way of life. As we look around us, religion serves the contrary purpose. It enslaves people's mind, cultivating disorder, separating people, bound in hatred, myth and superstition, and condition, which is in the temporal interests of a small ruling elite. So turn away from the religionists who claim to be the champions of their religion of Islam, Islam. The only way to know about the true deen is to read the Quran in its purity and use it as a criterion to judge the religionists' teachings. Do your own research to discover the distortions and put your trust in God. He is our only protector. Now we're going to talk about the language game. So Satan is a great deceiver. Satan's best game to keep the people from understanding the message of God is to keep them away from it. Quran was revealed in Arabic, but God promised to be its teacher in chapter 55 verse 1 to 2, and the one to explain it in chapter 75 verse 19. God told us in chapter 41 verse 44 the language is irrelevant, and that only the sincere ones are going to understand the Quran irrespective of their language, while those who are not sincere or fail to worship him alone will fail to understand it, even if they speak, read and write Arabic. You can see that in chapter 56 verse 79. Now, I have an issue with, worship, but we'll get to that on another video. Satan designed his game to suit all kinds of Muslims, to keep them away from understanding the Quran. Satan knows that reading the Quran by itself does not guarantee understanding it. Satan knows that God is in control and that no one will understand the Quran unless God let him or her. The best trick that Satan can come up with is to get the people to believe him instead of God. Once they do, they are prevented from understanding the Quran. God does not accept any partners. Here is the game Satan has been playing and seems effective on those who fail to serve God alone or accept his book alone. If your mother tongue is Arabic, Satan or his troops teaches you that the Quran is written in a very sophisticated Arabic, that you cannot understand it on your own, that you need someone who is very knowledgeable in Arabic to explain it to you. The Arabic speaking person would then give up reading his or her Quran in Arabic, waiting for the chance to find this knowledgeable person. If you ask your Arabic speaking friends how they find the language of the Quran, they will tell you difficult. Go ahead and ask them. But what is God telling us about the Quran and the language of the Quran? See chapter 54 verse 17, chapter 54 verse 22, chapter 54 verse 32 and chapter 54 verse 40 for an answer from God himself. Why they have difficulty? Read chapter 56 verse 79 and chapter 41 verse 44. If your mother tongue is not Arabic, Satan or his troops will encourage you to read the Quran in Arabic. Why does he do that? Because he knows that you will not understand enough of it. The majority of those who learn Arabic to study the Quran do not excel enough to understand the implication or interpretation of certain words when used in a special way in the Arabic language. So, they will have a lot of shortcomings. You know, many Pakistani and Indian Muslims are forced as children to read the Quran in Arabic, and still as adults read the Quran in Arabic, but they do not understand a single word of what they read. If you do not speak or read Arabic and try to read the translation of the Quran to get the message, Satan or his troops will tell you, no, you have to read the Quran in Arabic. Remember what Satan told those who know how to read the Quran in Arabic. He told them that the Quran is in a difficult Arabic text. Satan tells you, you will never get the message of the Quran if you read it in translation. The result is that the Arabic speaking person does not read the Quran in Arabic because he or she believes Satan and thought the Quran is too difficult to read. Those who do not speak Arabic and believe Satan will try to read the Quran in Arabic while not understanding it. They think the blessings of the Quran comes by just reading it, not by understanding it and accepting its message. Those who try to read the Quran in their native language translated from Arabic will fall in the same trap of Satan if they believed him and believed that they cannot get the message of the Quran by reading a translation. They would be discouraged by Satan and end by not reading the Quran in any language. In all these circumstances, Satan will succeed in keeping some Muslims away from getting the message of the Quran. One simple mistake these Muslims or non-Muslims do: they believe Satan instead of believing God. They deserve to be with him, Satan, where there is no Quran, no light and no guidance. We should understand Satan's game so we can fight it. We need to read the Quran to understand it, not to read it without understanding it like donkeys carrying valuable books. Read chapter 62 verse 5. The Quran is a message, not just another beautiful language book. If you cannot read it in Arabic, do not wait until the day you excel in your Arabic language, because this day may never come. Trust God and know that he is the teacher of the Quran. He will teach in any language and to any nationality. He created all things. Read your Quran today. Do not wait any longer, in any language that you can understand and master, and leave the rest to God. Whenever you want to pursue the truth and verify anything you hear about Islam, we urge you to please use the only valid and divine source of Islam, which is the Quran. In chapter 17 verse 36, do not accept anything that you yourself cannot ascertain your hearing and eyesight and heart. Each of them will be questioned about it. So obviously this verse is talking about blind following, and there are many more verses, but one should be enough for you to accept. So please stay away from these little devils, these little charlatans that want you to join them in hell. Use your God-given brain, reason, reflect and common sense, even with what I'm bringing you. There is a verse that says, if a fasiq comes to you with a news, verify it. This also applies to all the human species, Muslims included. Yeah? So all I'm saying to you is these little charlatans, these little devil worshippers, yeah, these little, I don't know what else I can say, because otherwise I'll start swearing, yeah. But there's loads of these people like that Nouman Khan, yeah. There's loads of them. And as I said, when I've got the time, I'm going to do a video on all of them, even if I repeat the same message. Just the fact that I have their little piece on a video with their title up there, yeah. Hopefully I can, by the will of God, I can bring people over to the Quran alone. It's my mission. I was in darkness, yeah, in that crap, yeah, that darkness of following all this man-made hadith stuff, right, for 18 years. I accepted it. I was left in the gutter. I was left to crawl through it by myself. Alhamdulillah, by the grace of God, yeah, I wanted actually to jack all the religion in. I didn't want no religion. This is how religion made me feel. I just wanted to give it all up. But one thing I didn't want to give up is God. I did not want to give up God. I just wanted to get rid of everything else. So I thought, do you know what? And I didn't even know about Quran alone. I thought, do you know what? I'm just gonna follow the Quran. Whatever it says in the Quran, it says in the Quran. I'll take it as that, innit? And then I clicked on a certain site, and there you go. There's people that actually do what I was intending to do. So there you go. I went there and I'm not looking back. I'm in light. I love it. I'll never look back to that darkness. And even looking, this is what I'm saying to people out there, yeah? Stop blind following. Stop blind following your fathers. Stop blind following your mothers. Stop blind following your grandfathers, your forefathers. Stop blind following your sheikhs, your imams, your mullahs. Use your God-given brain, your common sense. Reflect, reason. Read the Quran in your own language. Don't listen to these little devils. Don't listen to them. Yeah, just because they got eloquent speech, so what? So what? Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. And this is my honest opinion to you guys, yeah, that you need to wake up. I don't know, hit your head off the wall, yeah, until you wake up. I don't know what it's going to take to wake you up. Who's guaranteed you from this video, who's guaranteed you the next 2 minutes, the next second? Who's guaranteed you that? You ain't going to have the angel of death sending you a text message, knocking on your door, reminding you it's your time. And what are you going to die upon? Are you going to die upon shirk, idol worshipping? Really? Because you know that's never forgivable. Hell for eternity. All because you blind follow. And you know what, they're paraphrasing now, but there is a verse in the Quran that states that when humanity gets into the day of judgment, they're going to complain to God and say, why didn't you send a messenger so that we could follow the verses? Well, I'm here. I'm a warner. I'm warning you, and I'm giving you the message. I'm giving you the verses, yeah? In a language that you understand clearly. So you can't on that day even say that, and I will be a witness against you for what I brought, and you knocked it back. We're all going into the ground on our own. You have to understand that. We're going to be raised on our own. We're going to be questioned on our own. So please, 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 you're not going in that grave and your sheikh, mullah, imam, yeah, or mufti is going to be holding your hand. You're going to be on your own. Anyway, that's enough of this video. But there's more videos to come. And as I said, people from Facebook and YouTube, share it if you like it. If you don't like it, I don't care. As I said, any sort of, unnecessary comments on the YouTube or Facebook will be deleted and blocked and whatever else I can do. And yeah, please, as I said, subscribe to my YouTube channels. As I said, there's one called the Quran Alone channel, and then there's one called Quran Alone. I also in the process of doing a Stop All Abuse channel. You can find all this anyway. Even if you just subscribe, just to get, raise the subscribers. Like, there's a lot that, are interested in it. It's not saying that I do live streams there every evening between 9 and 10 PM UK times. Sometimes I don't, you just turn the notifications on and you'll get notified for it. Anyway, peace up, brothers and sisters. And as I said, keep safe. You have any doubts, you feel low, pick up that Quran.